All right, so we're diving deep into this Dr. Joe Dispenza material today, all about rewiring your brain. You know, we love to really break down these fascinating topics. And this one I think is especially powerful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this stuff can really change your life if you start applying it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So we've got this video you sent over where he talks about like literally rewiring your brain through the power of thought.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, just watching it was pretty mind-blowing.
Well, he's a very dynamic speaker, but also he really backs up what he's saying with some pretty solid research.
That's what I liked about it. It wasn't just like motivational fluff. It felt like real science.
Definitely. And one of the things that really struck me was how he emphasizes the sheer volume of thoughts we have each day.
Oh, yeah. He mentioned like 60,000 thoughts a day. Something crazy like that.
Yeah, exactly. 60,000. And here's the kicker. Every single one of those thoughts is shaping the connections in your brain.
Wow. So it's not just about like, you know, positive thinking. It's about understanding that our thoughts are literally building the physical structure of our brains.
That's exactly it. And there's research from Stanford showing that a single thought can trigger over 1,300 different brain chemicals.
Wow, that's insane. It's like a chain reaction happening in our heads all the time.
Exactly. And that's why Dr. Dispenza's personal story is so compelling. You know, he recovered from a spinal injury.
Oh, yeah. I remember hearing about that. Didn't doctors tell him he might never walk again?
They did. And he credits visualization and changing his thought patterns as a key part of his recovery.
Wow. So he literally like willed himself to heal. It's amazing what the mind can do.
And if you think about it, we can apply that same principle to any area of our lives.
Totally. But if we can rewire our brains for healing, like what about the flip side? What about all that negative self-talk we all do? Does that have a similar impact?
Oh, absolutely. And it's not pretty.
I have a feeling this isn't going to be good.
Well, research from Harvard Medical School links negative self-talk to a weakened immune system by up to 50%.
Wait, are you serious? So beating myself up isn't just bad for my mood, it's actually sabotaging my physical health.
It's like we're telling our bodies to get sick.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
And the reason is that each time we have a negative thought, we release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
It's like our bodies can't distinguish between a real threat and a threat.
Exactly. It's like living in a constant state of fight or flight, even when the danger is only in our minds.
So my brain basically reacts the same way to a scary movie as it does to me thinking I'm not good enough. That's both fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
It is. But the good news is that there's a way to change this.
Okay, I'm all ears, because I definitely need to change some of my thinking.
It all comes down to this concept called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity. That sounds familiar.
It basically means your brain is constantly changing and adapting throughout your entire life. It's not fixed.
Oh, right. I remember reading something about that. So it's like even as adults, our brains can still learn and grow.
Exactly. It's like a forest with paths that get stronger the more you walk them. So if you're always thinking negatively, those pathways become well-worn and automatic.
So if I want to change my thinking, I need to create new pathways, new ways of thinking and being.
Exactly. You have to start walking those new paths, and eventually they'll become stronger than the old ones.
That makes sense. But how do you actually do that? Like, how do you actually rewire your brain?
Well, Dr. Dispenza suggests a 48-hour challenge to really kickstart the process.
A 48-hour challenge. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What exactly does that involve?
It's a pretty structured protocol to help you interrupt those old negative thought patterns and install new, empowering ones.
Sounds intense. I like it.
It all starts with your morning routine, even before you open your eyes.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Back up. Before I even open my eyes.
You got it. You start by placing your attention on your heart center, literally focusing on the area of your chest.
That's interesting. What's the purpose of that?
It's about shifting your brain waves from the busy beta state to a more receptive alpha state. Think of it as preparing your brain for reprogramming.
Okay, so we're priming our brains for change. I like it. What happens next?
Then you move into declarations, not affirmations. You state your desired qualities as if they are already true.
Okay, so like instead of saying I want to be confident, I say I am confident.
Exactly. It's about embodying the feeling of confidence, not just repeating the words.
I can see how that would be more powerful. So you're not just thinking it, you're actually feeling it.
Exactly. And remember, emotion is key here. It's the chemical signal that tells your genes to create new proteins and alter your biology.
Wow, hold on. Our thoughts are that powerful. They can literally change our biology.
That's the power of neuroplasticity. And it doesn't stop there.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more. What else does this 48-hour challenge involve?
So throughout the day, Dr. Dispenza recommends carrying a notebook, and every time you notice negative self-talk, you write it down without judgment.
Okay, so you're catching those negative thoughts as they happen.
Exactly. And next to that thought, you write a replacement statement. For example, if you catch yourself thinking, I never have enough time, your replacement statement might be, I am the master of my time.
So you're actively replacing those negative thoughts with empowering ones throughout the day. Seems pretty doable so far.
It's a powerful practice, but to really boost the process, Dr. Dispenza also recommends what he calls pattern interrupts.
Pattern interrupts. What are those?
3 times a day, you completely change your physical state and spend 2 minutes rehearsing your new thoughts with intense emotion.
3 times a day? That sounds a little challenging to fit into a busy day.
Think of it as a mental workout. Literally building those new neural pathways.
Okay, so it's like taking a break from my usual routine and doing something to shake things up.
Exactly.
Oh.
It can be as simple as standing up, stretching, or moving to a different room.
Okay, I can see how that would help shift my energy. So what about the evenings? Is there a specific routine for that as well?
In the evenings, you do a specific type of meditation. It's not about clearing your mind, but actively rehearsing your new identity.
So I'm not just meditating, I'm actively visualizing myself as the person I want to become.
Exactly. You revisit situations from your day and replay them as your new self.
That's pretty cool. So you're mentally rewriting the script of your day, creating a new reality in your mind.
And to reinforce those new thought patterns even further, Dr. Dispenza suggests writing a letter to yourself from the perspective of your future self.
Oh, wow, that's a great idea. So it's like I'm sending a message back in time, giving my subconscious mind a blueprint for my future.
Exactly. But all of this takes commitment.
Yeah, I can imagine. For 48 hours straight.
And part of that commitment is what Dr. Dispenza calls mental hygiene.
Mental hygiene, what does that mean?
For those 48 hours, is absolutely no complaining, criticizing, sarcasm, or any negative self-talk whatsoever.
Okay, now that sounds tough. How do you avoid negativity for 2 whole days?
It takes effort and awareness. It's about catching yourself when you slip into those old patterns and consciously choosing a different thought.
So it's like building a mental muscle.
You got it. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets.
And to help amplify those new connections, Dr. Dispenza recommends creating an elevated emotional state playlist, music that evokes strong, positive emotions.
Exactly. It's about creating a full-on sensory experience to support your transformation.
That's a great idea. But what happens if I slip up? It seems almost impossible to be positive all the time.
It's not about being perfect. Every time you catch yourself falling back into old patterns, celebrate that moment of awareness. It means you're not on autopilot anymore.
It's like becoming the CEO of your own brain, taking back control of your thoughts and ultimately your life. Are there any actual measurable changes happening in our bodies during this process?
Oh, absolutely. It all starts at the cellular level. When you begin consciously directing your thoughts, your brain produces new proteins called transcription factors.
Transcription factors. Okay,
Yeah.
I need a little more explanation on that one. What exactly are they?
These proteins are like tiny switches that turn your genes on and off. So you're literally changing your genetic expression.
Hold on, you're saying that my thoughts can actually change my DNA?
In a way, yes. Every time you choose a positive thought over a negative one, your brain is flooded with neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. These are the chemicals that create feelings of well-being and happiness. And your brain starts producing BDNF.
BDNF? That sounds familiar. Remind me, what is that again?
Think of BDNF as miracle grow for your brain, helping those new positive pathways you're creating to grow stronger. And as these changes happen, you'll also notice a decrease in those stress hormones we talked about earlier, cortisol and adrenaline.
So while I'm consciously choosing new thoughts, my brain chemistry is changing and my stress levels are going down.
Exactly. And that's just beginning.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here. What else happens?
Well, as your thinking shifts, you'll likely notice improvements in your heart rate, variability, immune system, and even your digestion.
It's like hitting the reset button on your whole system. No wonder people feel lighter and more energized when they start changing their thinking.
And even your brain waves start to shift. When you're stuck in those negative thought patterns, your brain is primarily in beta waves associated with stress and survival mode.
Right.
But as you practice these new thought patterns, especially during meditation, your brain shifts into alpha and theta waves.
Alpha and theta waves, what's so special about those?
Those are the brainwave states where real change and deep relaxation happen. It's like opening a window in your mind to create new possibilities.
So it's like I'm literally shifting my state of being just by changing my thoughts.
You got it. And while all this is happening, Your neurons, the brain cells that transmit information, start growing new branches called dendrites.
Dendrites, I remember learning about those in biology class.
These dendrites connect with other neurons, forming new networks. It's like your brain is creating highways for those positive thoughts to travel on.
So this is actually happening. Like, I'm not just imagining it.
Oh, it's real. Scientists can see these changes using brain imaging technology. They can observe areas of the brain that were previously dormant lighting up with activity.
So it's not just a theory, it's a real measurable change happening in our brains. And it all starts with our thoughts.
That's the power of the mind. And it goes even deeper than that. Dr. Dispenza also talks about epigenetics.
Epigenetics, right. That's how our genes are expressed, I think.
Exactly. It's a fascinating field that's revolutionizing our understanding of how our genes work.
So remind me, how does that play into all of this?
It basically tells us that our genes aren't set in stone. Our thoughts, emotions, and experiences can actually influence which genes get expressed and which stay silent.
Wait, are you saying that my environment, my lifestyle, even my thoughts can actually turn genes on or off?
That's exactly what the research is showing. And when you maintain those elevated emotions like gratitude, joy, and excitement, you're sending powerful signals to your genes to produce proteins that create health, vitality, and even new capabilities.
Wow. This is seriously blowing my mind. So by changing my thoughts, I'm not just rewiring my brain, I'm influencing my genes, my DNA. But what about the other systems in my body? Do they benefit from this as well?
Absolutely. Your immune system, for example, goes through a transformation. Positive self-talk actually increases the production of immunoglobulins, the proteins that fight off disease.
So by thinking positive thoughts, I'm actually boosting my body's natural defenses.
That's right. And your natural killer cells, which protect against viruses and even cancer, become more active.
Wow. So this is about way more than just feeling good. It's about creating real, tangible changes in our bodies.
Exactly. And as this shift happens, the hormone oxytocin, often called the love hormone, starts flowing more freely, creating feelings of connection and well-being.
So this process isn't just about thinking your way to success. It's about feeling your way to a healthier, happier, and more connected you.
Exactly. And as your vagus nerve, which connects your brain to your heart and other organs, begins operating more efficiently, you enter a state of coherence.
Coherence? What does that mean?
It means your brain and heart are in sync, creating a state of optimal balance and well-being.
Wow. So it's like my whole body is coming into alignment, working together in harmony.
That's what happens when you start consciously directing your thoughts and emotions. And as you practice these new thought patterns, the formation of those neural networks accelerates. And even though those old negative patterns may not disappear immediately, they start to weaken as you stop using them.
So it's not about erasing the past. It's about creating a new future, one thought at a time. That's encouraging. But Dr. Dispenza also talks about the challenges of this process, right? Like, it can't be easy to change your thinking so drastically.
It's definitely a commitment. Transformation isn't always easy. We need to be prepared for the inevitable roadblocks that come up.
Roadblocks? Like what? What should people be prepared for?
Well, for one thing, there are environmental triggers.
Environmental trigger.
These are the people, places, and situations that activate those old negative thought patterns.
So it's like anything that pushes our buttons and makes us want to fall back into old habits?
Exactly. It can feel like the universe is testing our commitment to change.
I can definitely relate to that. So what can you do about those triggers?
It's crucial to remember that these triggers aren't obstacles. They're opportunities to strengthen those new neural networks.
So it's like resistance training for your brain.
Exactly. Every time you encounter a trigger and choose to respond differently, you're reinforcing those new connections.
So we can use those challenges to our advantage, proving to ourselves that we're not at the mercy of our environment. But what about the internal challenges? Are there any of those?
You might experience emotional resistance. You could feel anxious, irritable, even physically uncomfortable during this process.
That doesn't sound very fun. Why would that happen?
It's actually a good sign. Your body has become accustomed to certain emotional states, and like any habit, there can be withdrawal symptoms. Your cells are craving their usual dose of stress chemicals.
So it's like a detox for my emotions.
That's a great way to put it. And it's important to be aware of this resistance and have tools to manage it.
What kind of tools? What can people do to help with those withdrawal symptoms?
When those challenging emotions hit, focus on your breathing. Slow, deep breaths while focusing on your heart can help shift your nervous system from fight or flight to relaxation.
So it's about consciously interrupting that automatic stress response and choosing a different state of being. But what about the outside world? It seems like life would get in the way of maintaining this new way of thinking.
That's why it's so important to be prepared for external chaos. Life doesn't stop just because you're on a 48-hour transformation journey.
So how do you stay focused when everything around you seems to be pulling you back into those old patterns?
This is where pattern interrupt anchors come in. These are visual reminders placed throughout your environment to keep you on track.
Like what? Give me an example.
A sticky note with your new declarations, an alarm on your phone labeled with a new thought. Anything that reminds you of your commitment to change.
So I'm surrounding myself with support for my transformation. But what about the biggest challenge of all? Staying focused? How do you stay focused for 48 hours straight?
That's where preparation is key. Each evening, identify your potential challenges for the next day and mentally rehearse how you'll handle those situations using your new thought patterns and emotions.
So I'm pre-wiring my brain for success by visualizing those challenging situations and choosing new ways to respond. That makes a lot of sense. But what if I slip up? What if I forget and react in my old way?
That's where the 90-second rule comes in.
The 90-second rule? What's that?
It takes about 90 seconds for an emotion to chemically flush through your system. So instead of trying to suppress challenging emotions, simply observe them. Notice how they feel in your body, count to 90, and then consciously choose your new thought pattern.
Ah, I like that. It's not about resisting those emotions, it's about acknowledging them and then letting them go. So it seems like this whole process has a lot in common with mindfulness practice, paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
You're absolutely right. There's a strong connection between mindfulness and neuroplasticity. Both are about training your attention and consciously shaping your experience.
So I guess what we're really talking about here is taking control of our minds and our lives. It's pretty empowering when you think about it. But Dr. Dispenza takes this concept even further, right? He connects it to quantum physics.
Now that's where things get really mind-blowing.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more. How does quantum physics relate to all of this?
Quantum physics suggests that our thoughts aren't just creating our internal reality, they're actually interacting with the quantum field around us.
Hold on, the quantum field. What exactly is that?
It's a concept in physics that describes the fundamental level of reality where everything exists as pure potential, a sea of infinite possibilities.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So you're saying that our thoughts can influence this field of infinite possibilities, that our thoughts can actually affect reality.
At the quantum level, particles exist in all possible states until they are observed. This means that our observation, our consciousness, literally helps to create reality at the subatomic level.
Whoa, this is getting deep. So my thoughts are literally creating my reality.
In a way, yes. Every thought produces an electromagnetic field that extends beyond your body. Scientists can measure these fields.
So my thoughts aren't just some abstract thing happening in my head. They're creating a real measurable energy field.
And here's where things get even more mind-boggling. Quantum physics suggests that time isn't linear. The future can influence the present just as much as the past does.
Okay, now you've lost me. How can the future influence the present?
Think about it this way. When you learn to think and feel as if your desired future has already happened, you're not just engaging in positive thinking. You're literally pulling that future possibility into your present moment through the quantum field.
Okay, so I'm creating a magnetic pull, drawing my desired reality towards me by thinking and feeling as if it's already happened.
Exactly. This is why the 48-hour protocol isn't just about changing your thoughts. It's about changing your energy, aligning your vibration with the reality you want to experience.
It's not just about thinking positive. It's about feeling positive, embodying the energy of the outcome you want. But is there any evidence that this actually works?
Dr. Dispenza has seen some incredible transformations in his workshops. Real people experiencing real change.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. Tell me about some of these real-life transformations. What kind of results are people seeing?
Well, there's the story of Sarah, a corporate executive who had suffered from chronic migraines for 15 years. And during one of his workshops, she really embraced that 48-hour protocol, like really focused on maintaining those elevated emotions and, practicing her new thought patterns.
Sounds intense. What happened? Did it actually help with her migraines?
So get this, her brain scans showed some incredible changes in her blood flow patterns.
Oh, really?
And 3 months later, she reported an 85% reduction in migraine frequency.
85%? That's insane. It's amazing to think that our thoughts could have that much power over our physical health.
And that's just one story. There's also Michael, a retired military veteran who is struggling with severe PTSD.
Oh, wow. Yeah, PTSD can be really debilitating.
His cortisol levels were through the roof when he started.
Understandably, given what he's been through.
Exactly. But after just 48 hours of, consciously directing his thoughts and focusing on positive emotions, His blood tests showed a 60% reduction in those stress hormones.
Wow, that's incredible.
And even more importantly, he realized he had gone a whole day without a single anxiety attack.
Wow, the first time in 7 years, he said.
The first time in 7 years, yeah. And then there's Maria, an artist who had kind of lost her creative spark after a personal tragedy.
Oh, that's so sad. I can't imagine losing that creative energy.
Her brain scans showed very little activity in the creative centers of her brain.
That's heartbreaking. Creativity is such a vital part of being human.
Totally. So during the 48-hour challenge, she focused on generating feelings of joy and possibility and practicing new thoughts about her creativity.
I'm guessing her creativity came back.
Exactly. The follow-up brain scans showed increased activity in her prefrontal cortex and more connections between the creative networks in her brain.
So it's like she literally rewired her brain for creativity.
That's the power of neuroplasticity.
Yeah. These stories are so inspiring. It's like proof that we can overcome even the most difficult challenges by changing our thinking.
And there are so many more stories like that. I mean, think about James, a business owner who was dealing with autoimmune issues.
Autoimmune issues. Those are really tough to deal with.
His inflammatory markers were always high despite trying various medical interventions.
So even with medication, he wasn't seeing results.
He wasn't. And you know what? Within 48 hours of starting the protocol, his blood tests showed a significant decrease in those inflammatory proteins.
Seriously, just from changing his thoughts.
That's the power of the mind-body connection.
It's pretty amazing. And his doctors were amazed by his continued improvement 6 months later.
They were.
These stories are incredible. They make me want to try this 48-hour challenge myself. But has he actually done any scientific research to back up these claims?
Oh yeah, for sure. He's actually conducted studies to measure the physiological changes that happen during this process.
Really? What kind of studies?
Well, one study involved 100 participants wearing heart rate variability monitors during the 48 hours.
Heart rate variability, that's a good indicator of stress and overall well-being, right?
Exactly. And the data show that 89% of them significantly improved the coherence between their heart rhythms and their brain rhythms.
So it's not just a subjective feeling of improvement, it's a measurable biological change.
And those findings have been replicated in other studies. So it's pretty clear that when we change our thinking and cultivate positive emotions, our biology changes.
It's wild. It's like we're unlocking our body's natural healing potential through the power of our minds.
That's what's so exciting about this work.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored the incredible potential of neuroplasticity and even dipped our toes into the quantum realm. What's been the most impactful takeaway for you?
Honestly, I think it's the fact that we're not limited by our past or our current circumstances. We have the power to change our brains, our bodies, and our lives by changing our thinking.
I love that. It's such a powerful message of empowerment.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's a message that I think everyone needs to hear.
But it can be a bit overwhelming to think about actually implementing all of this. Where do you recommend people start?
You know, it's funny. You start by simply becoming aware of those 60,000 thoughts you have every day.
Right. Just notice them without judgment.
Exactly. And then start to pay attention to the ones that aren't serving you. The ones that are keeping you stuck in negativity and fear.
And then I guess the next step would be to start replacing those negative thoughts with more positive, empowering ones.
Exactly. And you can use the techniques we talked about earlier, like, the heart-focused attention, the positive declarations, the pattern interrupts,
right,
and the active meditation.
All those tools are there for us to use. But what if people try this and they don't see results right away?
Transformation takes time and effort. Be patient with yourself, celebrate your successes, and learn from your setbacks.
It's a journey, not a destination, right? And it's okay to ask for help. There are lots of resources available, including, Dr. Dispenza's books, workshops, his online community.
There's a whole world of support out there for people who are ready to embrace this kind of transformation.
So true. So this has been an incredible deep dive. I'm feeling incredibly inspired.
Me too. It's so exciting to think about the possibilities that open up when we start to understand the power of our minds.
And before we sign off, I want to leave our listener with one final thought from Dr. Dispenza. He talks about aligning our energy with the reality we want to experience, thinking and feeling as if our desired future is already here.
That's a powerful concept, isn't it? The idea that we can literally create our reality through our thoughts, emotions, and intentions.
So let me ask you this. What would happen if we all started doing that? What if we all started living as if our dreams had already come true?
It would be a completely different world, wouldn't it? I mean, a world where people were living from a place of love and abundance instead of fear and scarcity.
It's like we've been given this glimpse into a whole new way of being. And it all starts with recognizing the power of our own minds.
That's what Dr. Dispenza is really trying to show us, that we're not just victims of our circumstances, you know?
Right. We have the ability to choose our thoughts, cultivate those positive emotions, and literally create the reality we want to experience.
And the tools are there. We just have to be willing to use them.
I love that. So are you ready to rewire your brain for awesomeness?
Oh, I'm so ready.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. This is the kind of stuff that really gets me fired up, you know?
It's so empowering, and I really hope our listeners are feeling that too.
I think they are. I mean, who wouldn't want to take control of their mind and create a life they love?
Exactly. So let's recap those key takeaways one last time, just to make sure everyone's got it.
Sounds good.
So first, we learned that our thoughts are incredibly powerful. They're not just these fleeting things in our minds. They're literally shaping the structure of our brains and impacting our physical health.
Right. And all that negative self-talk that we do, it's not harmless.
Right.
It can weaken our immune systems and keep us stuck in that cycle of stress and negativity.
But the good news is that our brains are capable of change and growth.
Neuroplasticity. It's like magic.
It really is. It means that no matter what our past experiences have been, no matter what challenges we're facing right now, we have the power to rewire our brains for a better future.
And there's so many tools and techniques that can help us do that. The heart-focused attention, the positive declarations, the pattern interrupts the act of meditation.
You've got a whole toolbox.
We do. And we also heard some incredible stories of real people who have used these techniques to overcome some pretty major challenges.
Right. People healing from chronic pain, anxiety, depression, even autoimmune disorders, all by changing their thinking.
It's mind-blowing.
And then we took things to a whole other level when we started talking about quantum physics.
Quantum physics, yeah, that's where things get really interesting.
It's like we're not just changing our internal reality, we're actually interacting with the quantum field, a field of infinite possibilities.
And that field responds to our energy and our intentions.
So it's like we're all connected to this vast network of energy, and our thoughts and emotions are literally shaping the reality we experience.
It's a pretty awesome concept when you think about it.
It really is. So if there's one thing I want our listeners to take away from this episode, it's this. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You have the power to change your life. It all starts with choosing to believe in yourself.
Beautifully said.
This has been an amazing journey, and I want to thank you for diving deep with me today.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We'll be back soon with another exploration of fascinating ideas and transformative insights. Until then, keep diving deep and keep creating the reality you desire.
See you next time.